Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webcast, AI Made Simple. CEO Coaching International coaches thousands of CEOs and their leadership teams around the world in over 80 countries. Please note that all attendees are muted, so you are in chat-only mode. As the discussion unfolds, feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box. And now, it is with great pleasure to introduce and hand things over to Randy Dewey, President of CEO Coaching International.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to AI Made Simple webcast today. My name is Randy Dewey. I'm the President of CEO Coaching International, and I'm thrilled to be joining you today. I'm hosting today's conversation with Rajiv Kapoor to discuss what we need to know about AI and really how to implement this in your business. And if you like what you hear today, you would certainly love our upcoming summit called Making Big Happen Summit. It's in April on the 26th and 27th in Miami. We have 2 jam-packed days of inspiring content, sessions, planning, designed specifically around CEOs and leaders and their needs. The agenda and content are built to give you really practical insight into AI, how to grow your business, resilience, longevity, and living to 120. So if you haven't registered for that, be sure to check that out in the link in the chat. And now I'd like to introduce to you Rajiv Kapoor. Over a 30-year career, Rajiv has been part of the leadership team at Dell, where he built $1 billion-plus business in the US, as well as managed Dell's China and South Asia business to record growth. He's also been the president and CEO of 3 small to medium-sized companies, and of course, went through to successful exit. In 2021 and 22, Rajiv was a finalist for both Entrepreneur and Innovator of the Year from the Orange County Business Journal for his work at his company, 1105 Media, a leader in business-to-business marketing and media. He's been a YPO member for 17 years and has been a guest contributor to CNBC. He received his global MBA from the USC Marshall School of Business in Los Angeles and has a dual certification in AI from MIT. Currently sits on the board of 3 AI companies and as well a not-for-profit, Rainbow Services. Has 2 great best-selling books, one called Chase Greatness, Enlighten Leadership for the Next Generation of Disruption, and his recent book, AI Made Simple, A Beginner's Guide to Generative Intelligence. He's an accomplished keynote speaker in AI and leadership and 3-time screenplay writer and an AI advisor. Welcome, Rajiv.
Thanks for having me, Randy. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be here with the team and the company and the clients of CEO Coaching International, an organization I'm very intimately familiar with and very proud of Mark and the entire company's success.
Super, thanks. Great to have you today. Let's just dive right into the topic. You know, this for me, I've got a lot of passion around this topic. It's an exciting topic, and from what we hear, it's just really touching every business, and everyone's talking about AI, and it can, you know, in some cases, it can feel a little overwhelming for CEOs to consider, like, where do we get started? What is the easiest way, in your words, what would be the easiest way for a CEO to really enter this world and not feel like they're getting left behind?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I think what's happening right now is what was like when the internet first came out, right? And we were all a lot younger when the internet first came out. So you can imagine what our bosses were going through when the first internet. We're kind of going through that same thing. In fact, this is bigger than the internet, I think. In fact, if you check the Sundar Pichai, some of the people, this is as big an impact to business as fire and electricity, right? So when you hear those kinds of things, you get, oh my God, where do I start? You feel overwhelmed. And what I'm here to tell you is, and what I found, and we jumped onto this at my company literally the day ChatGPT was released to the public, we jumped on it right away. And we were all kind of, you know, flopping in the air too. And we were like, where do we go? What do we do? And we found to be really simple was I just encouraged my team to be curious. We just started using the tool. We started to figure out how can we just understand its potential impact. We started to understand that really it was all about understanding our data. How do we own our data? You know, because you can't be successful, as you know, in your past life. In order to be successful with AI, you have to really understand your data and just understanding simple things. You know, understanding how you can build a little bit of a strategy around AI. You know, what are some other ethical considerations there might be? How you can continue to learn. But at the end of the day, what we did was I encouraged my team to be extremely curious. There was a lot of F around and find out with AI, and that's even going on today. So that was the very first thing we did. And then from there, you know, it was just about finding ways to understand and what are some of that low-hanging fruit. And for us, Randy, what we did was we started doing simple things. we started using AI. Hey, just help me create a job description for a new job we had, right? It was where we started using AI to write a sales script. We started using ChatGPT to do little things like that. So once you start boiling it down to simple, little, easy tasks, and you start using it in your own personal life as well a little bit, you're going to find that it's so easy to use and it's so easy to implement, and it's just transformational across not just business, but also your personal and family life as well.
I know, ChatGPT, when it launched in November of the year prior, it was quite a shock that came out, and it really, I think, shone a lot of light on AI. But ChatGPT, though it is AI, AI is so much more than just ChatGPT. And if you think about, like, if you unpacked it a little bit, every industry is going to have impact that's a little bit different. Sometimes it's going to be, very disruptive. So in some cases, it's just going to be like, we need to use it to optimize our business. But how do you connect what's happening in my industry and where AI is going and where AI is even today? How does a CEO really know how it's going to affect the industry?
Well, look, I think from an industry perspective, you're right. I think there's going to be mass industries that are going to see major transformation. I think the legal industry is going to see a lot of transformation. I think the medical industry in the next few years is going to see some major transformation. I think marketing and media type companies like my company are going to see major, transformation as well as content becomes more ubiquitous. Look, again, it's easy to think about these major transformations, and I think that's what gets CEOs' head spinning. I would just encourage you to not think that big to start. If you're new to this world, don't think about the massive transformation that's going to happen in your industry. Just boil it down to what you think the small little transformation can start happening within your own business itself. Think about how you can just look at, for example, your shared services businesses. How can you slowly start to affect your HR department? How can you start to affect your marketing department, your sales teams? How does it affect IT? All those kinds of different things. So, for example, in my company, we're now using AI to build out chatbots for HR. AI-driven chatbots. So we're launching our first AI-driven chatbot in the organization next month that's completely integrated into Microsoft Teams. And we built this from scratch. And it's going to take all the low-hanging fruit off the plate of an HR professional. Look, and at the end of the day, what I want everybody in this call to think about, like one of the key takeaways here is, again, don't think about artificial intelligence. Think of this as a tool. It's augmenting intelligence, enhancing intelligence. That's number one. Number two is use AI to do the one thing money can't do, which is buy time. Think of it this way. A task, Randy, that would have, as you know, in your past experience, a task that would have taken 6 months might take 6 weeks now using AI. A task that would have taken 6 weeks might take 6 hours. A 6-hour task might just take an hour, right? And if you use it as your brainstorming partner, if you use it as your tool, as coaches right now for CEO coaching are out there working with different partners, clients, using that to enhance, the overall direction of the organization, are simple low-hanging fruit that everybody should be thinking about doing. And it's small little things like a chatbot, small little things like a job description, small little things like creating a marketing brochure, a marketing portfolio, a sales script. It's understanding small little basic things. Take baby steps. Generative AI, you're right, it's only 13 months old. It's a baby. I can tell you right now, one thing is for sure is that right now we have about 26 people on the call. And all I know for sure, Randy, and I think you agree, that 5 years from now, companies and people who are not using AI will be replaced by companies and people that are using AI. But you got to start small. Don't think of this major, oh my God, what's going to happen in my industry? Forget about that. Just focus solely on what's happening in your organization and start small, and then start building out from there. And I'm telling you that works because it's worked for us, and we're nothing special. So I've done now 23 talks in the last 90 days about this to YPO companies and others, and I can tell you that is the best advice I can give a CEO. Start small.
Start small. So I guess to your point though, routine, repetitive tasks that need consistency, there's opportunities in every business to enhance the efficiency of the business, for sure. Let's turn our attention towards the buy versus build. This is the age-old in technology. Every time something disruptive comes up, it's do we build it? Do we buy it? And you're always trying to balance between the economics of those two decisions. This is one of those areas where it's really, it can be complex and it can be difficult for people to grapple around. So how do we know what the possibilities are? Like, how does the CEO know how to find out what is really the art of the possible? What is actually available to be bought, and what should we be looking at in order to build?
Look, I think there's two things. Number one, machine learning AI has been around for a little over, for a long time, right? You did it in your past life. I've done it now in my past life. I'm doing it right now in my current life, for example. So that machine learning side is pretty mature, right? So machine learning AI, for those of you who are not familiar, it's going to be things like, hey, if you watch Netflix and Netflix says, Rajiv or Randy, you watch this show, we recommend that show, right? It's basically learning off the data, learning basic our habits. What we're talking right now is generative AI, and generative AI is about 13 months old. There's not a lot to buy.
Mhm.
It's still all nascent. And you think about what it was like when the first internet browser came out and you saw the .com boom. Think about all those companies that launched, but then there was massive consolidation. There was a bubble, the bubble burst, the whole 9 yards, and you went from having 7 search engines to basically 1 search engine, for example, right, in Google. So that's what you're going to see here. Right now, there's about 9,000 global or 10,000 global startups in the AI space. About 6,000 of them, 6,500 are coming out of the US, mostly out of Silicon Valley, parts of New York, Austin, other places. And so there's just so much noise that there isn't necessarily, quote unquote, a lot to buy right now. It's still pretty new and pretty nascent. You can go right now, you can use AI to create a logo. You can use AI to create, to create your own virtual chatbots through a company called HeyGen. There are companies right now that are doing PowerPoint slides. But look, what's going to happen over time is you're going to see this mass consolidation, and like Microsoft's Copilot now is slowly rolling out to the masses, and that's going to have the ChatGPT technology integrated directly into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Microsoft Teams and things of that nature. So even in LinkedIn, in fact, they're already testing it right now in LinkedIn, for example, which I know will make CEO coaching happy since they're power users of LinkedIn. So it's just there's not a lot to quote unquote buy right now, right? So there's a lot of cool tools out there. It's just a matter of finding what those tools are. And for those if there's people on this call right now that are all YPO members, there's some absolutely amazing WhatsApp YPO chat groups around AI. I'm happy to talk to people and help them with whatever tool they might need. But what we're doing right now in my company is we actually built that chatbot ourselves because we found that the current chatbot offerings were somewhat limited in terms of being able to process as much data as we process as an organization. So things are still pretty new from that perspective. I would imagine that over the next 12 to 18 months, things are going to get stronger, stronger, stronger. There's tools out there from a company called Zapier, for example. That when it first launched, it was limited to like 1 megabyte of data transfer, but they're slowly expanding that. There's tools called HeyGen, which I mentioned earlier. There's Lookup for logos. There's all kinds of tools out there right now. Adobe now is competing with Midjourney and the DALL-E product. And if you have Adobe Photoshop, and if you're in an Adobe shop, you could just add the Firefly license, and now you have access to the full creative ability to create imagery right through your Adobe license. So CRM, Salesforce.com. Salesforce is in the process of integrating the Einstein AI solution directly into your CRM. So you'll have that at a click of a button to do all kinds of AI analysis, all kinds of predictive analysis. And that's what's key, right? Is if as a business owner, the beauty that AI is going to be able to bring you is being able to predict the future as close as possible. But it's still kind of early to kind of say buy or build. I right now lean a little bit more to build just because I think the buy side, there's still a lot of noise and there's going to be consolidation in that space in the coming year or two.
Yeah, and the amount of things that will be rolling out over the next 3, 4, or 5 quarters will be quite interesting. It's with 10,000 companies launched here and 6,500 just in the U.S. alone, that's going to certainly create a lot of product.
Yeah, just think about what it was like when the .com bubble burst, right? I was at Dell when the .com bubble burst, right? There was thousands of companies that were taking advantage of the internet.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but that burst and so many companies away. That same thing's going to happen here. It will absolutely happen here. So over the next 2 years, you're going to see this massive explosion of new startups, new companies coming out, new products, new solutions, new offerings. At some point, there's going to be a bubble bursting, and then you're going to see consolidation, pull back, and then you'll see the players, roll out. And I'll tell you right now, the players that are going to be out there, Microsoft is probably going to be the biggest player. From a business perspective, they're probably going to be number one. So if you hit your wagon to Microsoft and the Copilot offering that they have coming out the door, you can't go wrong.
Yes, yeah. We have AI expert coaches that really focus on this issue, and there's a never-ending stream of requests to start unpacking and building out the AI strategy and the roadmap. I asked them what would be the single biggest question or concern or issue that they're dealing with as they're building out these roadmaps, and it came back as actually the answer was twofold. They said, first of all, it's people not understanding what's actually possible, and the second thing was underestimating the data requirements. So we talked about the first one already, but let's unpack the second one, the data requirements, because to your point, if building is the way you got to go, or maybe the leaning because not a lot is available, how do we look at that in light of the fact that data is probably the underlying most important thing that you need and requirement in order to even start the actual journey?
Listen, I'll tell you right now, if you have data, but you have no way to access it, if you don't have a way to understand it, if you don't know how to data manage it, if you don't have data controls, you will fail miserably in this whole process. Not only will you fail miserably in this whole process, I guarantee you in the next 2 to 5 years, you could be completely out of business. Data is going to be the new oil. The companies that are going to be successful at AI, the first step, you have to learn you have to be able to use and implement data. It's everything from as we mentioned, data governance, data control, data privacy, data management, data lakes. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. One of my companies is called TDWI, and they're the #1 big data and AI training and education company right now in the US, and they're growing like crazy because of what's happening with AI. So really excited. But again, if you don't feel like you have good data, or if you have data but you don't feel like you don't understand how to use your data, then I would encourage you, the #1 investment you should you should be thinking about making in your organization is not some AI tool. Go hire the best data scientist or data analyst you can find and bring that person into your organization. They will more than pay for themselves.
Let me push you a little bit on that. You know, you're obviously in this space and you're quite active. Give me, without attribution to any one company, give us just a bit of a case study of when you went in, started to help build out the strategy, and all of a sudden there was this data question. What were some of the things that came out to really, one, get ready, or if they didn't have the data, what were those things that they practically did to get at least started on getting the data collection and the systems in place to be able to capture the information, to know then how to use it? Give us a bit of a war story.
Look, I guess the war. I'll give you 2 war stories. The first one is, I'll just start with my own company. I'll just talk about myself, right? We just built out this HR chatbot. We found out we had all this data about HR, about our employees, about our benefits, but guess what? It wasn't really readily accessible. It wasn't organized in a way. It wasn't in the right data tables. It wasn't set up right, the right way to be able to pull the data. So here's a chatbot that we thought we could launch in 4 weeks. We're now 4 months into it, and we haven't even launched it yet. Why? Because our data, and I have a data company, right? So even we didn't listen to some of our own advice. And that's an example where you have data, but it just wasn't organized properly. Like the machine learning algorithms and the AI algorithm they could pull from it, but you were getting bad results. And it wasn't because, it wasn't necessarily because we did anything wrong. It was never really a priority, right? Who thought a year ago that this was going to be there, right? So now the good news is that, okay, fine, we got it, we figured it out, we know what we had to do, and we worked with, we got we have one of the companies I'm on the board of does a lot of data and AI build, transformations for organizations, and so we use them, and they're helping us, and so we've now got all of our HR data. So this chatbot that we built is going to take care of all level 1 communication, right? What's our benefit plan? How much is it? What's our PTO policy? You name it, boom, 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 boom. All that was there. It was all on the intranet, but you had to go search for it, find it. So we had it. We just didn't have it organized properly. So that's one simple thing. It's just about, so everybody on this call could have their data. It's just probably not organized in a good way to pull from, right? So you have to spend a little bit of time on that. So a little bit of time, a little bit of money, and it's going to work wonders. Another example of a little bit of a war story, is I recently did a version of my AI talk for a YPO member company who's got a major tax preparation business. And they have all this tax information, when you think about it, right, for all of their clients. And they have thousands and thousands of clients. Yeah. And they had this idea. So they have all this data, right? They know everything about their clients. They know everything. They have all their social security information. They have everything you could think of, right? Their kids, their marriage, what their deductions are, what type of cars they drive, right? Their house, their education profile. I mean, they know everything, right? Mm-hmm. And so they had this vision that on January 1st, that they thought they could just build out this little solution and press a button and everything would automatically populate. So Rajiv and Randy's tax returns would automatically populate. That day, you and I would get a simple email saying, here it is, click, fill out where you are, wait till you get your K1s, whatever else you need, your W-2s and all that. And then 80% of your taxes were already ready to go. So they started building out that tool. And what they found was that they had data, but it wasn't properly secure. There were huge data privacy concerns. They didn't have the right data controls in place. They didn't have the right data management. So you can have data. Like, you can talk to your team, your CTOs, your CIOs, whatever. Do we have data? Sure, you have data, right? But
Yeah.
unless you have really good ability to manage it and control it and get it out, get it and pull it out and structure it in a way to make it viable, it doesn't really matter. So the bottom line here is that they really thought that they were onto something, and they are onto something, but they're not going to make it for this tax season. It's going to take them another 6 months to go back, retool the whole thing, and get it ready for next year, for next season, which in their world is going to be huge, because right now they have about, what was the number? I think they have like 150 tax preparers outside the US, I think in the Philippines and other places. And in their mind, and those tax preparers can process 3 tax returns a day. They believe that next year at this time, they can go to 15 tax returns a day by using this tool and using AI, a 5x increase. Now, they can either reduce their staff, right? They can go from 150 to 50 or less, or 30, right? Or they can find ways to increase their output. And they've elected to find ways to increase their top of funnel and output.
Excellent. And thanks for mentioning that, because, at least at the beginning, we were talking about things that were kind of cost efficiencies, right? Like how to actually use AI to improve your cost structure. But there's revenue opportunities, there are costs, there's customer experience, there's products, there's even lead generation. There's so many categories that AI touches. Obviously, the efficiencies may be a good place to cut your teeth and get started, but it all ultimately ends up going back to your data plan, and to your earlier point, getting expertise, data scientists or a data company that can help you, making sure that you understand how to capture the data and how to then use that data, even if you had a strategy in place. So just maybe just explain that a little bit more in detail of what your comment was on how to get a data specialist to help you out.
Yeah, the good news is that data, this is going to be a top-down driven strategy implementation in an organization. This is not going to be bottoms up. Social media was a very bottoms up. Hey, I don't understand social media. Someone to go talk to the intern, teach me how to tweet, what's Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff, right? So that was kind of very bottoms up. This is going to have to be a top-down strategy implementation in an organization, right? The good news is that CEO coaching has some amazing people who understand this stuff already. Beyond my book, there's Asha's got a great book called The AI Factor, which is phenomenal. Definitely check out Asha's book, because she's amazing and she's awesome. But at the end of the day, finding a really good data analyst, there's plenty of places to find good data analysts. And just like you would find anywhere, LinkedIn, get a recruiter, whatever. So there's no secret science or secret sauce. And every single major university in the country and in the world offers now a data analyst or data scientist degree program, right? So it's coming. And so it's there. There are AI algorithm houses that exist in India, China, Romania, and whatever. I'm on 3 AI boards, and 2 of them do all the heavy lifting in Romania. So, so there's that. So I'm not super concerned about finding an analyst. But what I am more concerned about is people thinking that this is some major hill to climb. And I'll give you an example, right? So 10 years ago, the thing that got me into this, and I mentioned the idea of pizza like a few minutes ago, right? The whole pizza thing. Let me tell you about that story real quick. So after I got my first AI certification at MIT, I got introduced to the head of operations for a major CPG company where pizza was one of their top 3 products, right? So franchisees all over the country, all over the world. And they were having 2 particular problems. And I'm sure this will resonate to some of the people listening. So one of the problems they were having was, after high school football games in the Midwest, their franchisees were getting crushed. Why? Because what happens, and I lived in Austin and I lived in Sioux City, Iowa, because I worked at Gateway first before Dell, is that in high school football is a religion in parts of the Midwest. And when the game's over and your team wins, what happens? You want to go eat, right? And you want to go eat pizza. And those pizza franchisees were getting inundated. They were getting slammed. They didn't have pepperoni, they didn't have cheese, they didn't have no staff, whatever it might be. They were just getting slammed. This was 10, 11 years ago. Right? And then from there, they had the same problem kind of in the Southeast, but this was different. The Southeast was a weather problem. When there was a hurricane watch or tornado watch, people don't want to leave their homes. So what do? They call out, and this is, by the way, pre-DoorDash, pre-Uber Eats, all that stuff, right? So they were having the same problem in the Southeast. So they had this issue from kind of middle of August through kind of middle of November where they were getting double whammied, right? Football problems, weather problems.
Mhm.
And so what we did, we came in there, I worked with them, I had my team, and they had data, and their data was amazing. Randy, they had data that said they knew by zip code what time every high school by zip code. They knew what time the high school what time they started, what time the games ended. They know who won, who lost. You could probably even build a whole betting thing off this if you wanted to, but they knew who won, who lost. They had all the data. They knew what time from the time the game was over to the time they went to the franchisee's pizza location, how long it took. The average was 17 minutes, right? So they knew how much, so they knew what their orders were like. They knew what they were missing, how many were vegetarian, how much were just cheese, how much were pepper, whatever it might be, right? So they had all this data. And it was easy. We just took that data and created machine learning algorithms that basically spit out a solution that said, okay, when the game's over and on this date, you just put it in. This is how much staff you need to have. This is how much pizza you need to have, how much pepperoni, mushroom, cheese. And they saw a 70% improvement in their ability to serve their customer. That was huge, right? The same, we took that same exact algorithm because they had all the data, all the weather data. They had NOAA data, almanac data. They knew everything about when hurricanes were coming through for the last 10, 15, 20 years. We took all that data, took the same algorithm, and retrained it now with weather data to say, okay, if you have a hurricane watch coming through, this is how much drivers you need to have, whatever. They saw about a 37% increase in the ability to service customers during bad weather patterns and scenarios. So again, they had great data. It was just now a matter of putting it together and baking the cake. So those are some examples there of just how when you have great data, you can see massive improvement. And you can imagine a 70% increase for franchisees in the Midwest and a 37% increase for franchisees in the Southeast because of weather. That's huge return on investment.
So if we were to step back for a second, just pop our head above the tree line and look ahead, what do you think in the next 3 to 5 years? How's the future of business and how does it change as a result of AI?
Wow, that's a great question. I think a couple things. I think you're going to see a massive change and shift in companies who are not using AI are going to slowly be going out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. So companies and people who are using AI are going to be replacing those companies. So I think there's going to be mass consolidation at some point in different industries, whoever they might be. I think it's going to happen across the board because every single company on the planet is going to get impacted by AI. Everyone, doesn't matter who it is. There's not a single company that won't be impacted, right? Doesn't matter if you're a company focusing on climate change, if you're focusing on longevity, whatever it is, if you're in the creative field, every single company is getting impacted, right? So the number one is I think there's going to be some consolidation. Number one. Number two is I think you're going to see a lot more efficiency gains. I think every single job, mine, yours, your coaches, Mark's, Heidi's, everybody's job is going to have some sort of impact. That doesn't mean everybody's going to lose their job. Meaning every job's going to have an impact. That impact is going to lead to efficiency. So you should see more productivity. If you focus on using these AI, generative AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Anthropic or Claude or whichever Bard or whichever tool or Gemini, whichever way you want to go, if you focus on using these as tools, just like you would any other tool in your business, and you learn how to use these tools, you're going to be fine. I think what you're going to see though is I think you're going to see massive time to market explosions across the board. I think we haven't even touched, I don't think we've even touched the tip of the iceberg yet in terms of new companies that are going to be coming out that we haven't even thought of today. Think about it, right? The mobile revolution led to things like Uber and all those kinds of things. So
Yep.
we don't know what that next Uber, the next Airbnb, the next Etsy, Fiverr, whoever it is going to be yet, right? So that's going to be coming in the next 36 months or so. But the other shift that's going to be happening is when you think about it, the marketplace, the job market itself is going to see a massive shift, right? In the next 2 years, the majority of the workforce, is going to be Gen Z and millennial, right? In the next, I think I read the number, right, that by the end of the decade, almost all boomers would have retired by the end of the decade, and Gen Xers are going to slowly start to retire. So that's going to be Gen Z, millennials, and Gen Alphas, and they're going to be the most connected generation we've ever seen. And they're the ones who are going to, just like how we had to step up and lead when the internet first came out, they're the ones who are going to step up and lead with this whole thing. And to me, what keeps me up at night is not what's going to be like the company in the next 3 to 5 years. What keeps me up at Randy, to me, is deep fakes. What keeps me up at night is people recording my voice and having me say stuff that I never said, or making a video of me doing things I never did. Those are the things that keep me up at night. What keeps me up at night is a Superman effect, which is there's going to be bad AI out there. So imagine if Superman got raised by somebody bad, by the Colombian drug cartel. What type of Superman would we have? Those are the kinds of things that keep me up at night. So that's going to be a whole new industry that's going to be spawning. So if there's anybody on this call, and how many people do we have now? We have 28 people. If there's anybody on this call that has any kind of semblance that touches this industry, if you want to be the next multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar company, figure out how to deal with deepfake technology and deepfake issues that are out there. And I'll tell you, there's some companies that are dealing with it, but it's still not there yet. That, to me, is going to be a major, major problem. So,
Rajiv, if we were to sort of boil it down into the 4 or 5 really simple takeaways for CEOs and their teams today as they're listening, and those that listen after this recording goes out, what would those 4 or 5 really simple takeaways be that you'd really want those things to be really resonating in the minds of the viewers?
well, look, I think, I mean, we kind of touched on all of them already, right? So if I were to summarize kind of what we've been talking about over the last kind of 30 minutes so far, number one is you have to encourage your team to be highly curious, Randy, about what's happening with the technology. Just start using it. And just don't start using it for business, start using it in your personal life and your family life as well. So for example, I just took my son, he's doing study. I use ChatGPT to build a whole itinerary for me and all the cool things to do in and around Barcelona. I use ChatGPT as my travel agent. It recommended hotels, it recommended restaurants. You can put in, I want only Michelin star restaurants. So start using it for all aspects of your business. Like for me, it is, what would ChatGPT do? That's my mindset. I have it open and I use it all day long. I am right now paying for ChatGPT 4 for all my employees. It's a $25,000 a year investment. All my employees have access to ChatGPT 4. We've done over 500 man hours of training on AI type different products and tools for all my employees, and it's paying off. And we're getting more and more efficient. We're finding more and more tools and more use cases on how to use it. So definitely be curious. Use it in all aspects of your business. I have a friend of mine yesterday. I was speaking to her, and she got some bad news about her A1C levels. And so I made her go on to ChatGPT. She went on to ChatGPT right away and it built out her whole plan on how to fight and deal with her A1C challenge. So you can use these things for all aspects of your life, not just for business. So start playing with the tools. So that's number one. Be curious. Be curious. Number two is, we talked about this for quite a bit already, understand your data. If you don't know your data today, the first thing that those of you on this call should do is hang up the call. When you get done, go find your CIO, CTO, whoever they might be, and do a full data review and a full data analysis on your data, how you can have access to your data, how you can pull your data, how you can use it to use your data, and how you can use your data to drive efficiencies and drive new revenue and opportunities and new products in your organization. So that's number two. Number three is focus on the tools as a way to augment intelligence in the business. Right? It's not about artificial intelligence, it's about augmenting intelligence. It's a tool. And I don't want to make it sound like it's just like a calculator, because it's way more than that. It is a tool. Just like Excel is a tool, this is a tool. It's a tool designed to help make you and your business more efficient. And just a simple example of that is there's a product available within ChatGPT 4 called Advanced Data Analyst, right? Which is, it used to be called, it was called Code Interpreter, so now it's called Advanced Data Analysis in ChatGPT 4, and that gives you your own data analyst in your pocket for $20 a month. You can take your files, you can upload it, have it do full custom visualizations, do analysis, you can do file comparison side by side, all those kinds of things. Now, some people will tell me, Rajiv, what about data privacy? If I put something up there, people have access to my data? Sure. So if that's the case, and you're worried about those kinds of things, for my organization, we don't really have anything all that super proprietary, but for companies that do, anonymize your data. And the new enterprise versions of ChatGPT that's now starting to roll out, and you want to do things with their API and you want to do things internally and build solutions using ChatGPT technology, you have the ability to opt out so it won't use your data to train any more of the algorithms, right? So that's going to be huge. So just small things like that. And start thinking about how you can start using AI to start buying time. You know, identify what are those key use cases in your organization that you can start doing that. So I'll give you another example. I'll give you another war story example. So I did a talk for a major beauty brand out of Europe. And we used ChatGPT kind of as our kind of brainstorming guide when I did it. And I was kind of the facilitator. We used ChatGPT there as a super, and they had their they had their scientists in the room, the CEOs in the room, who's a YPOer, and they had their marketing staff. I mean, there was like 20 people in the room, and 4 or 5 of them I think were their scientists and their engineering team. And we used ChatGPT, and the question was, what is one? We used ChatGPT, and I asked them the question, what is a transformational product that we can use that could drive $1 billion of new revenue for your business? And they sat there and they said, our dream product was a product that could do both, a product that could do like Botox and collagen, for example, together at once.
Yeah.
Because right now, can you do one or the other, right? And so I sat with them, we went over it, we used ChatGPT, we built out all the prompts, we went back and forth quite a bit, and ChatGPT put out a formula for them how to do it. And they basically took that formula and are now testing it. And this was this is back in October. So 3.5 months ago, 4 months ago. So I got an email from her the other day saying that they believe that the formula could work. And so they're now in the process of putting together their first trials on that formula that ChatGPT recommended. And if it works, it could be $1 billion transformational thing. And it took all of 16 minutes to do it.
Wow, that's fascinating, Rajiv. That's interesting. And
So those are the simple things, you know, that you can do.
I want to switch gears a bit because I don't want to miss the questions from the audience, and some of them you have answered, but if you don't mind, I'd love to just read you the questions and get your insights here.
Yeah, of course.
First question that came from the audience is, we want to become an AI first operation. By what? I expect each employee to seek ways to improve performance by using AI in their daily job functions. What training programs exist today to introduce AI for administration, finance, sales, customer service, and my engineering teams?
That is a great question. And I hate to tell you, there's not a lot of good training programs right now. And the reason why is because it's so new. Now, with that being said, Microsoft, you can go on LinkedIn. There are some really cool free training programs that Microsoft offers, Google offers. You can just Google whatever Microsoft AI training programs or Google AI training programs, even on LinkedIn. So there's some basic AI training programs. For me and my organization, what we haven't talked about, what my business does is we do B2B media tech. So we're very technology focused and oriented, right? So we're very techie in my company, my organization. And I took one of my ladies who's probably one of the most technical people we had, and I made her my VP of AI, and I serve as the Chief AI Officer. And we started small, and we started training people just on how to use ChatGPT, and it was great. And we just started small that way. But there are programs and different tools out there that are now starting to roll out. There's some great YouTube videos, and just, you know, you can just go on YouTube and search, you know, AI basics and all those kinds of things, you know, and how to start using it, things like that. But definitely you want to get your employees trained up. It's simple things to do, but you want to start small, right? Just start with small little pilot projects. Don't boil the ocean. Do something simple. Think about, hey, like start with our first thing we did was we used AI, we used ChatGPT literally the day it came out to write job descriptions. Simple, right? You know, and now we're using it for search engine optimization. We're using it to write our Instagram posts, our LinkedIn posts. You know, we're using it for, you know, for marketing copy. We're using it to do research. And now that there's the Browse with Bing feature now integrated into ChatGPT 4, and it gives you sources. So it's not just making shit up. Sorry for my French. So you start small and you focus on identifying, well, what are 2 or 3 small little problems in your organization that you have, and see if we can use ChatGPT to do that. And then what existing resources do you have? Your CIO, your CTO, if you have a database manager, whatever, they should be the first people you need to go to give them the challenge of saying, okay, well, let's start training people up on ChatGPT. And if you need help, you know, I'm happy to through you guys or whatever, I'm happy to offer my you know, my assistance or whatever I can do to help. But it's quite frankly, it's not that hard. You know, so don't boil the ocean, and then just, you know, start to look and collaborate within your own network of people that you have, whether your white peers, your forums, whatever the case might be, see what others are doing, and then put in your KPIs or your OKRs, whatever makes sense, and just start to measure and just start tweaking and adjusting from there. But just start small. I mean, just start small.
Let me jump to a couple more questions here. What's the one thing I can tell my leadership to utilize with AI that would make them immediately better?
I mean, I think we talked about that already, right? A little bit in the last question. And so,
be curious, ChatGPT.
You know, look, I think with ChatGPT 4, let me put it this way. I think once you kind of feel like you've got your handle around ChatGPT, using ChatGPT as a brainstorming partner is huge. And now that ChatGPT is multimodal, and multimodal meaning you can now, if you download the app, you can download the app. Here, let me just pull it up real quick. You can download the app, and on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see a pair of headphones.
Yes.
And if you do that, Randy, you can now you click on that, you assign it a voice, and it acts as a two-way discussion. You can sit there and have a full-on discussion with ChatGPT on any idea you have, back and forth two-way discussion, because it's completely multimodal now. And that's simple. You think about all those times you're driving in your car and you're just having that conversation in your own head. Just press the button and say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm thinking about launching a new product around XYZ space, whatever it be. What do you think about this? Oh, well, I'll think about this. I'll give you an answer. Oh, can you expand on bullet point number 3? And it expands on bullet point number 3, and it tells you, right? So you can literally have a full conversation with ChatGPT now with a multimodal feature. So brainstorming tool, conversational tool. But again, we talked about it earlier. Just forget about the big thing, right? Just start simple. Make sure you've got your data. Make sure you understand that. No one needs to do any sort of fancy AI, Python programming here. It's all being done for you. Identify 2 or 3 key use cases you think might be able to be beneficial in your organization. Start with HR, IT, finance, shared services, your marketing teams, your sales teams. Use it to write sales scripts. Like one of the things I started to do is, like, if I get a complex email from somebody, I'll copy it, I'll paste it into ChatGPT, and I'll, hey, ChatGPT, do me a favor. What would be an appropriate response to this email, for example? It's not that I don't want to write the email. I can absolutely write the email, right? But it's kind of fun to see how ChatGPT words it. It actually does a pretty good job, right? You just copy, paste it, you adjust it, you change it to your voice a little bit, and you're done, you move on, right? So it's pretty cool. So simple little things.
Last question here. It's hard to understand what is available and currently possible among all AI tools out there. Is there a centralized place to sort through it all and identify tools that we can use?
So that's a great question, and the answer is no. There's no centralized place. This is the Wild West. Just like the internet was the Wild West, and e-commerce was the Wild West, and the mobile revolution was a Wild West, and social media was a Wild West. This is absolutely a Wild West. I find where I get my news, number one, is for those of you on this call that are YPO members. There's, like I said, there's some amazing YPO WhatsApp chat groups that I'm a part of, where I get a lot of good information. Twitter, X, I'm not necessarily the biggest user of the platform anymore, but there are 3 or 4 people that I do follow who do a great job of summarizing, the newest and greatest of what's happening in the week. This what's happening with AI, which is fantastic. So I do have a couple of people I follow there. Reddit is a great place for me to find what's happening with AI. Apple News, and I set up artificial intelligence under Apple News. That gives me every day, every morning, a summary of what's happening on AI. And then the other trick I do to get the latest updates and news and ideas and thoughts is I have a Google alert set up for artificial intelligence. So I get a summary of Google alert at the end of the day on what's happening from an AI perspective. And look, believe it or not, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give everybody listening on this call is talk to every single one of your vendors and ask them, what are you doing with AI to make my business more efficient? Ask that question, because that's what we're doing. So whether it's Salesforce.com or HubSpot or Marketo or whatever platform you're using, whether it's a finance platform, whatever it might be, ask that question. How are you implementing AI in your product to make my business more efficient? That's something you should be putting back on your vendors, 100%.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rajiv. That's excellent insight, and thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today. But if you and the viewers are interested in furthering your AI strategy or getting deep into a roadmap and the framework, please feel free to contact us, and the details are in the chat box there for you to connect to an AI expert coach. And a reminder, all of you that enjoyed this conversation, Rajiv is going to be a special guest speaker at our Making Big Happen Summit on April 26th and 7th in Miami. There's going to be 2 jam-packed days full of exciting content related to AI, longevity, business resilience, and business growth. You can learn about that through the link in the chat box as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for today. And again, thank you, Rajiv.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Randy.